This week on Dumb Pitches, my guest is Gianmarco Soresi, and he is full of good ideas that he's passionate about. And yes, I'm actually saying good ideas. They are bad ideas technically, but he is fully on board. And honestly, by the end of the episode, I think you will be too. We got bunk beds on a plane so that you don't have to sit. That's nice. As soon as we start talking about social media and maybe ending social media, we have some technical issues, which I think is very suspect, but important to the episode, I think. And overall, just the general passion involved is beautiful. It's a great episode. Here we go. Dumb pitches.
What a bunch of dumb pitches. Oh my goodness.
Welcome to another episode of Dumb Pitches with Monica Nevi. I'm Monica Nevi, your host. This is the show where we talk to successful people about their worst ideas. We have a fantastic guest this week. Please welcome Gianmarco Soresi. Yay.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. Oh, man. Okay. So we always like to start by giving your good ideas so that people know you don't only have terrible ideas. So let's see. You were on Netflix's Bonding. That's amazing. CISO's New York's Funniest. The Real Housewives of New York, which is hilarious. I
did about it was very, very bad. I know someone told me there was a stand-up show, and I did not know, but there was a stand-up show in front of the Real Housewives because one of the ex-real husbands was performing, a French guy, and we bombed, but that's because it wasn't really a show.
Right.
Everyone was having dinner. And so I got really stoned right before it because it was I'm not that guy. I'm not like stoned before the show guy, but it was so it was going to be so terrible. I was just like, fuck it. Let's lean in.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm glad this is on the good ideas list because
yeah. And so thank God they used about 1 second of me. So you couldn't quite tell how bad I was doing.
Perfect.
But then they to a housewife and she was like, I know energy. And let me tell you, that show, zero energy. And I was like, fuck you, okay? You do stand up. You ate dinner.
And in this situation, not even a good stand-up situation.
So, yes, but I was on Real Housewives of New York, and I will use that credit.
I was going to say, it still counts as a credit. Well, and you also have a podcast called The Downside for the skeptics out there. Yeah. Which, right when you're done listening to this, you're on something already. You can just listen to that one too, but listen to this one first. And then obviously you're doing live stand-up all over. People can follow you and stuff and see you live, which is great. Always better. And maybe there'll be a Real Housewife there. We don't know. All right. So when we sent you the criteria for the show, what bad ideas did you come up with?
Let me tell you, this was a struggle because I do think these are good ideas. Okay. Like deep down inside, these are ideas other people have informed me are bad. I still think they're good ideas.
Okay.
I feel very passionate about because I've been traveling a lot more around the country. I'm 6'4". Travel is very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And okay, what is it we all want to do on a plane? We want to lean back. What would be the dream? To be horizontal. Just to be horizontal.
Yeah.
My proposal. Get rid of the chairs. Stack us up like bunk beds.
Oh.
So we're lying down the whole flight. I don't sit at any point during the flight. All I want is that you're begging. You're like, oh, can I go back? And you could go back, Spirit Airlines, especially it's this and that. That's not enough. We spend money on pillows. These pillows, I've bought 10 as if one of them is the solution, these Nick pillows. So I can be like, yeah, that's good. That's how I sleep. That's how I prefer to sleep, actually. So my mind, I'm like, listen, these airlines, they don't give a shit about us. They get worse and worse every year. Spirit Airlines was just bought by another airlines. That's going to become the new standard. Is the terrible airlines. They can pack even more people onto these planes. Just stack us up. You don't have to do what is it, like class 1, class 2, all these things. You can have top bunk, middle bunk, bottom bunk, and you can people, but it will all be lying down. I would much rather be lying down for 6 hours than sitting at an uncomfortable angle for 6 hours.
I think you're definitely onto something, and it's very obvious that you're passionate about this idea. I hadn't ever thought about the neck pillow thing, because that is, well, first of all, very common on planes. Like, they were made up, I guess, for planes. Maybe the chairs only exist because of big neck pillow. They feel like they wouldn't, their sales wouldn't stay the same if everybody could just lay down. Just do the normal pillow.
I just, listen, I flew first class once. It was because I did a job where they gave me first class from New York to LA. And when you can bring that chair back fully and you can lie down on a red eyes are actually fine if you can lie down all the way.
Right,
but I'm a bad sleeper. I'm tall. Nothing's built for me. Give this to me. I just don't, if you had the option, if you're going to do a 12-hour flight, and you could put a TV right there and just watch it like you're looking at the stars. I see no downside to it. I see no downside.
I think you have a good point as far as pitching it to the actual airline, is that you could fit more people on there, and then that's maximizing profit is always best for them. Plus, I think you're going to start tapping into some people who maybe wouldn't fly before because they're too tall or too, you know what I mean? So if they were too uncomfortable to take, especially a long flight before, then this might remedy that. Because I know some international flights in the the first class of international do like lay down, and that's
it's rare. It's rare. I recently I fell for it. They're like, oh, for $250 you can bump up to first class, and I was like, you know what, Gianmarco, you've had a tough life, and I did it, and then no horizontal.
Really,
that's all I want. First class, they gave me one of those boxed waters, and unlimited champagne at 11 in the morning. Thanks a lot. Real blasted at 11. Now look, would it present difficulties in terms of drinks? Yeah, maybe you'd lose coffee, but guess what? You wouldn't need coffee because you could just go to sleep. All I want is to not be present for this part of my life.
That would be, nobody's like happy to be on a plane, you know, like it can be fine, or you're excited where you're going, but you're not like, this is my favorite part, is sitting on this plane and feeling uncomfortable when I need to pee and I don't want to have to make people move or whatever. Because that would be another thing. If you're in your bunk, you can just get out whenever. You don't have to wake everyone up and move them and stuff.
Once again, yet another pro I hadn't even thought of.
I hate sitting on the inside and having to move people to go to the bathroom. I don't like doing that.
It's the worst. It's all such a terrible experience that I think this is the one way we can tell the airlines, hey, you can make it, you can cram us in even more, and we'll be more comfortable.
When you would think maybe this is I'm bought in. Your passion for it is ignited to me as well. It might be easier for the flight attendants. I was going to say wait staff. That's not a comedy club. The flight attendants, because I don't think they like to do the cart service, right? And you're not like tipping them or anything, so that's annoying. So then if they could just be like, if someone does need something, then they can go. But otherwise, they don't have to do the like up and down a bunch of times and explain the same shit to people over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know how these poor stewards, these carts are so crammed. They can barely get through there. If one person has to pass, they have to bring the cart all the way to the other end of the plane so the person can go to the bathroom. These planes are out of control. Part of me wants the government to take over. I know the government wouldn't do necessarily a good job at all, but these airlines, they have made this experience so miserable.
Yeah.
You see these old pictures. I don't know if you've ever seen like a picture from like the 60s or whatever, where people dressed up for their plane ride. They wear their suit like they were going to church.
Yeah.
And I saw one, and there was a guy with a piano. He was playing piano entertainment
in the plane. Wow.
Oh my God, it's wild. And not like a first class, like a regular trip to Ohio. And they had, well, today's pianist will be so and so and so. Oh man, it really bothers me. And I've never traveled this much in my life. I'm sure I'm going to be on, I don't know, 50, 100 plane rides this year or something. And something's got to change
Yeah.
because I can't do it anymore. I don't know how tall you are.
5'6".
5'6".
Yeah.
So
bad.
that's nice.
I'm taller than the average woman, but I am not that tall. No. But even so, because I was an athlete, and so my body's a little used up, So why are you laughing at that? My knees hurt if they stay in the same position for too long. So that is an issue for me, as I'm trying to like fit my legs underneath so that they can stretch out more, which obviously, because I was I played basketball, shorter player, we traveled all the time, twice a week during the season. And I always felt bad for our post players because they're 6'2" to 6'7". And I just don't even, walking in with their heads sideways if the plane's too small and stuff. It's uncomfortable for me. I couldn't imagine for you.
I watched a documentary about Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
You know Andre the Giant?
Uh-huh.
And this guy's, he's very wealthy, flying nice planes, but he was so big that when he had to use the bathroom, it was horrifying. They would have to just bring out a bucket and they would put curtains around him and he'd take a shit right there in the middle of the plane. And I'm like, that's insane. That's insane.
That is insane.
It's criminal. Every CEO of every airline should be put in jail. I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't bat an eye. Put them all in jail for life. They've created more pain in the world collectively than any serial killer in the history of the universe. Collectively, they didn't kill anyone per se.
That's
not
fair.
yet.
That's true. Well, yeah, we don't know, probably, but
we don't know.
That's an interesting point too, because the now they're going backwards in that they're like, oh look, we have more leg room now, and I'm like, well, what did you have before? Why is this? And so that was a thing, was like, we'll do less leg room so we can fit more people in there, and then because I can tell the difference in airline now. I've traveled quite a bit for a long time, and like American, I can barely stay on because it's so painful. And so I couldn't imagine being like with your knees actually like touching, but mine are like so close on American. But then, yeah, just lay them all down.
Lay them all down.
Lay it all down. Well, I like it. Okay, we'll see how feel free to comment. Would you feel comfortable in a bunk bed on a plane? Okay, what else do you got?
I think you should be able to rate other people's therapists, because there's so much of therapy, and I actually just came from therapy. That's why I'm so calm and relaxed. I think so much of therapy, you're providing all the information to your therapist.
Right.
Everything that they know about your life is based on what you tell them. And obviously, therapy, it's more of an art than a science. And obviously, ethically, there's a degree of like, I would not want my therapist to be talking to my girlfriend,
right,
or parents. But I do think it would be probably useful if like 10 of my friends were allowed to either rate my therapist or write her like a complaint box. So that way my therapist is like, oh, okay, so Gianmarco says his friends never want to make plans. And then like all my friends are writing my therapist and say, Gianmarco's always making plans extremely last minute.
Okay.
And my therapist goes, oh, okay, so he's a little full of shit. It's not necessarily that all his friends are flakes. It's that Gianmarco can't commit in advance and can't seem to be a good friend. So she has a fuller picture, and she can notice patterns like, oh, this is something Gianmarco needs to work on.
Right.
He didn't mention the fact that every time he sees his friends laugh at another stand-up comedian, he goes, why are you laughing so hard at that? It's not that funny. Like, she should know that about me.
Yeah.
And she can bring it up. so much of therapy, it's really about like, so what do you want to talk about today? And you know what? Maybe I'm in therapy because I should not be in control of what we should be talking about every day. Maybe that's the problem. I need my friends to fill in the picture. Um, and I just think like there's a way where like good therapists and bad therapists, it's hard for them to ever be called out on their bullshit. My dad's been seeing the same therapist for 40 years. And there's no way this guy deserves more than a quarter of a star out of 100 stars. I haven't seen the difference. So I think it would be nice. And then my dad could look at this and go, oh, that's interesting. The therapist I see 3 times a week has negative 5,000 stars on Yelp. Lowest score ever. Maybe I need to see a different therapist.
We've been paying this guy for years for no
Long
reason.
time. Long. I've always had this fantasy. You know that movie? What's the Alfred Hitchcock where he kills the woman in the shower?
Psycho?
Psycho.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking about mother, and you find out mother is like his dead mother. It's a skeleton in a dress.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's what this might be.
That's the therapist your dad's been seeing?
It's literally Freud, and it's Freud's skeleton in a suit. And I go, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense.
That makes more sense. Well, and that's such an interesting, because like teachers get, standardized testing is like how you see if a teacher is doing a good job, because it is, a little bit more subjective. But there's nothing like that for therapists unless they do something really bad and get in trouble, I think. Like, I don't know how you get banned from being a therapist besides, abusing someone.
I think you got to commit. You have to commit a full crime. But the crime of bad therapy is I'm very pro therapy, and I feel a little bit wary, more than a little bit, about the advent of online therapy.
Okay.
Because again, like I've always said the internet makes everything a little bit better and then way worse. And I think online therapy, there's a lack of accountability. There's a real it's the difference between like an Uber driver and a personal driver. Like a personal driver is someone you have a longer relationship with. Ultimately, they're probably going to be better than just randomized driver.
Yeah.
So I think we got to come up with a rating system, and who better to assess your character than your friends?
Well, especially people who had known you pre-therapy, or pre this therapist at least, and then afterwards, because then they can compare, or like your dad in this case, you could see or not see if things happen. And I think it would be interesting in a review process, because normally if you have a normal job, you get a review and then they say, this is what you've been doing good. This is what we want you to work on. Maybe that therapist doesn't know that's what they need to be working on, because you're right. You're not bringing it up, or something. It's something different that your friends are seeing that they don't realize is an issue, and then they can actually focus on. So as long as they weren't offended by it, it would be helpful for them as well to do a better job. Right?
I agree.
Okay.
Once again, a good idea.
Yeah. This is because like first of all, you rate your Uber drivers. Why wouldn't you be able to rate your therapist?
Of course, we rate everything. We rate everything. And no reason therapists should be above that.
I agree. Well, and, did you go to college?
Yes.
Okay. We had.
You said it in a way like
what?
It doesn't seem likely.
No, I read that you did, but I
from musical theater. So in a sense,
theater, okay.
no.
That doesn't count for musical theater.
That's what sometimes there's like a vote coming up for an election. They split up people into college educated voters versus non-college educated voters. And like the only difference between me and a non-college educated voter is they have a job. Like that's really the only difference.
Okay. Well, when I was in college, we had a website that was called ratemyprofessor.com.
Yes, I know that site.
Okay. So yeah, and that was like how we chose which you'd be like, well, this one's too hard, or like, whatever. And that was how you chose your professors. I mean, pretty much every time. Once I realized that was the thing, that is how I picked. If you could, which of course, if they had a good score on there, then their class would fill up faster. But
is that still around?
I don't know.
I have not thought about that website in so long. That's
Honestly,
why
I think about it quite often, and I don't know why.
I feel like it wasn't as filled out as it should have been.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could go to town. Oh my God. I would rate my professors. I'd rate my professors who had left the teaching industry just so they know.
They'd be like, I know who wrote this. This is that's hilarious. Okay, I like the idea and especially the feedback from the outside perspective, because with my therapists, I've had more than one, it was like their choice to see me less. Sorry, I realized that makes it sound like she was just like, I'm done with this. But she felt like during our sessions, I was doing so much better that she was like, oh, just, once a month or come in when you need me kind of thing. And I don't know if that, maybe at the time it was better, but then there was bad times again kind of thing. But that was between her and I in just that session. Like, she doesn't really know how well I'm doing outside of that.
Yeah.
So if they were able to at least give some,
I agree. Every time my therapist, I've been with my therapist for a while, and every time she like intimates like, maybe we don't have to see each other as often. And I'm like, okay, let me share some things I have been holding back.
That's okay. You're like, let me hang on. Don't move too fast. Oh my gosh, I like that. Okay, so I think, but overall, both of these ideas so far good for both sides. It's really, I will say something with this show that doesn't happen often. The person who's thinking of the idea is like, this is good for me and fun, but honestly, easier to pitch these because I do think if done right, it would be a reciprocal good.
Yeah.
Really good at this. You're really good at this.
I have bad news. I think this third one is the best one yet.
Okay, perfect. We got time.
Okay, so we cannot stop talking about misinformation online. We're struggling with misinformation online. And what is everyone's solution? Oh, we have to root out misinformation. We're gonna add a little tab. A tab so small that your grandpa, who believes everything he reads, could not even read it with like this to his computer. None of this works. None of it works. And these social media companies, they want you to get the news on their website. So they're not incentivized to stop. And I say, no, you really want to fix misinformation. If that's actually what you want to do, you need to fill social media with so much fucking misinformation. No one trusts anything they read on social media. We, time and time again, we try to fix a problem that is not solvable, as opposed to looking at the facts and going that social media is not capable of monitoring itself, and it gets accused of censorship the moment it tries to do anything. So instead, you let everyone post whatever they want. They can post that it's from the Washington Post. They can doctor videos. They can come up with fake claims. So rather than try, you know what's an impossible task? Trying to make sure only the most accurate things about COVID and vaccines and scientific studies are present. That's impossible. That's impossible to do. So instead, you let everyone say whatever they want about the vaccine. It makes you grow a tail. It makes you grow horns. It makes you fly. It makes you have a baby. Let them post everything. So then everyone goes, okay, I guess I can't go to Facebook for the news. I'll have to read it somewhere real. And that's, I mean, to be a little, that's what happened with the news. It became so unreliable and became so propaganda that you went, you know what? I can't go to the news anymore for real stuff. Well, you need to do that with social media. You need to make, so if your grandpa's reading shit, sorry to talk about your grandpa, but if your grandpa's reading a bunch of bullshit, make it so that his news feed is clogged with insane stuff where even he goes, okay, I don't think the vaccine makes you a lizard. I can't go to Facebook anymore. I'm going to have to go buy a newspaper again. And that's the only way. That's the only way out of this fakakta mess.
I think that makes sense too. It's not, I mean, I honestly feel like we're going that way a little bit, especially with a lot of retweeting or resharing of stuff where you're like, this is clearly fake. I mean, I don't know if it happens as much with the like misinformation part, but the videos or pictures or whatever, people are like, look at this, and you're like, well, that's obviously edited, but some people just don't know that, I think.
Sure, there's videos right now where they say it's from Ukraine and Russia, but it's actually from videos from Palestine or videos from a fucking movie.
I mean, it is trash. Okay. Blake, do you hear that sound too?
I'm sitting on a balloon. I popped a hole in it.
Okay, you can hear it too. I felt like at first it was like it was going to stop, but now it's gotten louder. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Big Brother. Because they know I'm onto something.
Yeah, as soon as you start talking about this one.
Makes sense, whatever just happened.
It did. I mean, honestly, as soon as we stopped talking about it, it went away. So this is... this is... Okay, well... I feel like I can use part of it, but I don't want to. So now I want to see if you start talking about it again. If it comes back. Okay, so you would say like everything should be not fake, but just you'd be allowed to put whatever you want without being censored at all. Or even censorship. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so let's say like let's try to make a metaphor. Let's say there's like a field of flowers. And you don't want people to play in the field anymore because there's a couple heroin needles out there. Okay. Like, you know, for whatever reason, people start doing heroin there. And so like some people are getting poked by these needles. And people are like, you know, yeah, but some of it's really nice and there's lovely flowers. You can try to pick out all the heroin needles out of the flower field. You're going to miss a lot of them. So my solution is fill it with heroin needles.
So that no one goes in the field at all.
Without getting poked by 100 needles. And then you know what? People are going to stop going to the park. And they're going to go to a different park where maybe there's no heroin needles.
Okay, so, you know, because I do have a problem with, and the older I get, the worse it gets, but just how reliant we are on screens and everything, you know, like, and how you forget to be like a person in the world. And so I kind of like this idea of being like, you're so almost afraid of it that you... I know, that you would just stop using it at all because you're scared.
Yeah.
And social media is scary, and I think we should take it serious like that, which is...
And they won't do it because they want you to get your news there. That's the big lie in my mind. With social media, they're like, we want to make this more accurate. But the real way to make it more accurate would be to stop having people get news from social media.
Yeah.
So they don't want it. They want it more accurate as long as you're still using their service for all of it.
As long as you're still clicking on stuff, then...
And they don't have the system to do it. And I don't think it's possible. Given what social media is.
So you're saying we have to abolish social media by doing this so that
Literally.
It just goes away because you can't regulate it.
Make it entertainment by filling it with so many lies.
I do forever. This will be the weirdest part of an episode where when you did start to talk about this, we had some audio issues. And then when you stopped, it went away. And then when you started talking about it, it started to come back.
If I die after this, if mysteriously.
Yes.
If I am walking through a field.
Like that you're like mysteriously. I mean, if it's obvious, then it's fine. But if you're walking through a field and there's a bunch of heroin needles, this is what happened.
It did it to me. It was Mark Zuckerberg. I swear. It was.
I mean, these are all, I'm pretty impressed. These are all pretty good. And I think, I mean, yes, particularly this one may seem extreme, but you're right in that I don't know what the other option would be if you really wanted to regulate misinformation like that or like this, you know? Because, I mean, honestly, this whole podcast is about lies and bad information. And we're allowed to put it out, and I do every week. I mean, you know, people know it's done.
And they're going to go, wait a second, this episode was filled with good ideas.
Yeah, this is good. See?
Not this podcast anymore. And there you go. That's good.
False advertising. Yep.
It's entertainment. That's fine.
Well, it's good. We're going to get started. That's what this is. It's just all misinformation on purpose. Oh my gosh. This is really fun. Really fun. Thank you so much for doing it. Tell people where they can find you, where they can come see you live or follow you on social media.
Yes, please find me everywhere online. It's my full name at Gianmarco Soresi. I'm going to be I'm going to be in Las Vegas towards the end of March. I'm going to be headlining in Los Angeles, March 30th. I'm going to Indianapolis, Connecticut, Houston, Dallas, Florida, all sorts of dates. Find me online. You can sign up for my mailing list, my text list, or just follow me on Instagram, and I post everything. I'm coming soon to you, and come see me live and listen to my podcast, The Downside.
That is amazing. That's a lot of good cities coming up. You're going to be busy. We got to get this bunk bed thing started.
Exactly.
Just for you. Well, thank you for doing it. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. We also have YouTube memberships if you want some behind the scenes episodes. And, rate and review, subscribe to us, Dumb Pitches, and also to The Downside. You might as well. You're going to be listening to podcasts. Add another good one. But right now, you can just keep watching Dumb Pitches.
You're weird.
Yes.